And everybody recognizes that this thing's gone on for 30 years and that it's an absolute failure. Everybody recognizes that. How do we know it's a failure? Because every day in the paper you read that they're making new drug busts. Now, if they're making new drug busts, that's pretty powerful evidence that what they purported to try to achieve has not been achieved after 30 years. And you can see what it's done. I mean, you know, Page talked about going into Nuevo Laredo after that seminar. That ain't going to happen anymore. Because no person in his right mind is going to cross the bridge and just have a good time in Nuevo Laredo, because we know the violence down there. We know the drug war gangs. It's happening all over Mexico. It's like a war zone. It's like Iraq down there. 30 years. I mean, it's gotten to the point where the drug war just exists for its own sake. People say, well, they haven't enforced the laws. What? What do you mean they haven't enforced the laws? You got DEA agents all across America. They've decimated the Fourth Amendment, search and seizure. They've got mandatory minimum sentences that have thrown blacks and Hispanics into indeterminate jail sentences just because they're addicted to drugs. They've got asset forfeitures that are making all these police departments and federal agencies rich, circumventing the legislative process for budgeting. You've got crooked cops, crooked police, crooked judges, and not just on the Mexican side, but on this side as well. The drug war is corrupting the entire society. Violence, corruption, and yet the attitude in Washington is, this is a given. Get used to it. This will stay with you another 30 years. And it's gotten to the point where the busts are the very reason for the existence of the drug war. I mean, I just read in the New York Times today where they're celebrating the extradition of the ex-governor of Quintana Roo, a state in Mexico, to New York. Wow. They said this is a big breakthrough in the drug war. Wow, does that mean we can end it now? I mean, we heard this about Carlos Leader, the Cali cartel, the Medellin cartel, over and over again every year. Immigration. Immigration provides the classic case of where you combine socialism with interventionism. The socialist side comes about with respect to central planning. They honestly think, whether it's Congress or the president or commissions, that they can come up with the perfect plan on how many immigrants and what kind of immigrants should be permitted to come into America. This is a government plan, a central plan, where they're going to say, okay, this many from this country, this many from this country, and this kind of education they're each going to have, and these kind of work skills they're going to have, and then we're going to analyze the labor market in America, and we're going to see what's needed and where it's needed and so forth. We're going to allocate the workers there and guest programs, and everything's going to be hunky-dory. They possess what Friedrich Hayek, the Nobel Prize-winning economist, called the fatal conceit. The conceit of the planner. That the planner can come up with the central plan that'll solve a complex labor market like we've got in this country. The reason that it is inherently defective, as Hayek pointed out, is because as soon as they come up with a plan, the perfect plan, guess what happens? 1 second later, it's out of date. Because market conditions are changing, constantly changing, every second. Every minute. You come up with a plan here, and all of a sudden, you got a plan for Colorado because they need pickers there, and all of a sudden, 1 week later, things have changed. They need them more in California, or in Florida, or in Texas. That's why the Soviet Union failed, because of that central planning mindset. And they think they're going to pull it off here? And it's a classic case of interventionism. I mean, interventionism is a philosophy, a system of looking at life where government says we're going to intervene in a peaceful economic activity to fix a problem. The intervention creates more problems. Instead of ending the original intervention, they pass more and more and more interventions until, as Ludwig von Mises pointed out, you end up with big, big, powerful, omnipotent government. And classic case in this in immigration. First, they make it illegal to enter the country. They don't want foreigners coming in here without waiting in line. A line, by the way, which takes about 10 years. And if you're lucky, they let you in after getting there for 10 years. It's okay, we're going to make it illegal to enter. Well, guess what? the prices of labor start going up in California, Texas, Florida, North Carolina, and people in Mexico say, hey, that's an opportunity for me. I can make some money. He tells his wife, I'm going to go up for a few months, make a lot of money, and come back. The intervention didn't work? Well, we're going to have to do something about this. We'll make it illegal to transport illegal aliens. Hey, if they can't find their way up there, that's going to solve the problem, right? So they made it illegal to transport. Guess what happens? The black market forms. All of a sudden, you got illegal transporters. Instead of just regular buses that people would ordinarily take or their cars, you got illegal transportation that forms. So you got this black market where, yeah, they're willing to pay 10 times the amount of the bus fare because they're making a lot of money. Okay, so that intervention didn't work. And always this crisis environment. Every time, oh, what are we going to do about the illegal aliens and stuff? So they say, we'll come up with a solution. We will make it illegal to hire them. Hey, no jobs? They won't come up anymore, right? Well, about 10 or 15 million illegal aliens later, they realize that intervention hasn't worked because you got a black market and false documentation. And so now the next intervention, build a Berlin Wall along the southern border. Even militarize the border. Now, I'm not suggesting that this plan necessarily cannot work, because we've learned in North Korea that you can seal the border. The government can get so powerful that militarize the total border, it can militarize. We learned in East Germany that they can stop people from crossing walls. The problem is, though, is that once you get a government that big and that powerful, that's not going to be a society in which people are fighting to come in anymore. In fact, it's most likely going to be a type of society where people are fighting to get out. And the people who are fighting to get out are going to find that that wall works both ways. And that's what's happened in places like North Korea. That all of a sudden big government on the border results in big government in society that controls everybody, with raids on businesses and controls on businesses and cameras everywhere watching and monitoring everybody. Social Security. Here is your classic case of socialism. You've got the government taking from one group of people, the young and the productive, and giving it to another group of people, the elderly. Now, I know what we're all going to say here, or some will say, there's a fund, I put my money into a fund. I mean, it's a classic case of self-deception, self-delusion. There has never been a fund. There never will be a fund. Is there a fund for your income taxes? Is there a fund for your sales taxes, for your property taxes? They spend the money. It's gone. Your money is not in a fund. In fact, this is one of the areas where the government's fairly honest. When they publish their balance sheet, Social Security liabilities are not on the liability side. And their rationale is because they don't owe the money. And they don't. It's just a welfare program. It can be repealed at any minute. That's the government's position, and that is the correct position. It's the legal position. It's what the Supreme Court has held. It's just a welfare program. But notice what Marx says. Marx says, from each according to ability to each according to need. Social Security. From each according to ability, the young and the productive, the people that are trying to start families, working as hard as they can to make a mortgage payment with interest starting to rise, flexible interest rate loans, having to have a large portion of their income taken in order to fund people who want to retire early, want to go to the golf course. This is classic socialism. Is it any wonder that it's bankrupt? Morally bankrupt? Is it any wonder that our ancestors rejected this kind of socialism for more than 100 years?